Today's video is kindly sponsored by jerseyfifa.com, the website you need to head to right away to get yourself the latest high quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. And what's even better than that, you can use code JerseyFIFA at checkout to get 10% off your order. The link will be in the description, but again I just want to say a massive thank you to Jersey FIFA for sponsoring the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today I'll be doing analysis of yesterday's brilliant FA Cup final clash between Chelsea and Liverpool at Wembley. To be honest, both teams were set up pretty much exactly how we would have expected, with both Chelsea and Liverpool setting up in their standard formation and shape. So we'll start off with Chelsea, and when they had the ball in their own defensive third, they were put under quite a bit of pressure, with the Liverpool front three matching the defensive shape of the Chelsea back line. We saw this extremely early on in the game, with Liverpool literally going man for man with the Chelsea defenders, and obviously as a result this made it incredibly difficult for Chelsea to find their way through the press. As a result, this meant that Edouard Mendy was often left with very few passing options, which did occasionally force him to play slightly longer, and at times I thought that his passing was below standard. Obviously there were occasions when Chelsea got through the first line of the press, but they were then immediately faced by the next wave of Liverpool players, with Thiago and Keita in the midfield continuing to apply the pressure. Here we can see both Kovacic and Jorginho being closely followed by the Liverpool midfielders deep in their own half, and even when Chelsea were able to break the first line of press, they were soon forced backwards. As always, the relentless pressure from Liverpool was just ridiculous, especially during the first 45 minutes of the match, when Liverpool just continued to crowd these central areas of the pitch to stop Chelsea. However, despite this, there was still one way that Chelsea were able to get out of the press, and that was by playing the ball wider, with Reece James in particular often find himself in space to receive the chipped pass. On the left hand side, Alonso also received this sort of chipped pass plenty of times as well. However, James was certainly the more frequent target because he got just a little bit more space in this wider area. His pure technical ability and control on the ball was often enough to buy himself a little bit of time on the ball, and at last Chelsea had found a way to finally get through the Liverpool press to move the ball forward. Obviously Liverpool didn't want James to have too much time on the ball, so Robertson was often drawn out of position to mark him, but this then left space in behind for Mason Mount to run into this free area. This was probably Chelsea's biggest threat, playing in quite a direct manner when they were able to draw Robertson out of position, and as I said, it created a bit of space for Mount to drive into with the ball at his feet. Despite his eventual penalty miss in the shootout, I still thought that Mason Mount had a pretty good game, and as I said, it was his positioning and ball carrying ability that allowed Chelsea to move the ball further forward. As a result, this of course left the Liverpool defence slightly exposed, with them being one man short, and this then meant that Pulisic over on the left was able to move infield to attack the space on the edge of the box. Playing in this exact sort of pattern was Chelsea's best way of creating chances, and Pulisic got himself into some really good attacking positions, and he was able to get shots off at goal, but he just lacked the quality. Ultimately, I think it was a bit of a disappointing cup final performance for him. He got into some really good positions that offered so much promise for him, but he just failed to finish with conviction when it really mattered. Despite this, the narrow movement of Pulisic was still extremely important, as it dragged the Liverpool defence across, which then left room out wide, which meant that Marcos Alonso was able to push forward. We all know that Alonso loves to make attacking runs into these areas, and it was no different in this game, and he did have a big chance to put Chelsea in front, but the pass and touch just let him down. In that way, Alonso had a similar sort of performance to Pulisic because he put in some excellent work to get into the final third and some really promising positions, but the quality was lacking, but at least he showed promise. Unfortunately, the same can't really be said for Lukaku up front, because yet again Chelsea simply didn't play to his strengths and he didn't run into the channels anywhere near as much as what he should have to trouble Liverpool. I'm not sure if that was a decision from him or the manager, but either way it just doesn't really work for me, and in these big games you can't really afford to have a striker that isn't contributing to the team. So now it's time to look at what Liverpool done in possession, and if I'm being completely honest, the patterns of play couldn't have differed more, and it started with the Liverpool defenders having a lot of time on the ball. This is a perfect example here, with the Chelsea forwards dropping off slightly, allowing Van Dijk to play at a walking pace on the ball, and this obviously gave Liverpool a platform to then look to build possession. Van Dijk did eventually go off injured, which will be a massive concern for everyone at Liverpool, but while he was still on the pitch, I thought that him and Konate went about their performance in a very comfortable manner. As a result of this time on the ball, Liverpool were obviously able to progress the ball towards the middle third effortlessly, with the team then looking to build possession in a 2-4 shape with Thiago and Henderson. This is the typical shape that Liverpool look to use in these sorts of areas, especially in the bigger games, and for certain phases of the game, it really did give Liverpool an element of control on the match for decent periods. As I've said a lot recently, it really is the technical ability of Thiago that allows Liverpool to play in this way, and his pure ability to take the ball under pressure is what allows Liverpool to dominate. From here we then saw one of the most important tactical ploys of the clash, and that was the movement of Mane up front, who done an excellent job of operating as a false 9, dropping deep to link the play. In this role, Mane was absolutely brilliant from start to finish, and to be honest, the Chelsea midfielders were never really able to deal with him, which allowed him to turn away before then looking to bring others into the game. I do think that Mane's performance will go slightly under the radar because of how exciting some of the other players on the pitch were, but from a tactical point of view, I thought he was the most important player on the pitch. Perhaps slightly surprisingly, one player that really benefited from Mane's movement was Henderson, because Mane was able to hold the ball up, allowing the team to get up the pitch, so Henderson had more space deeper. Then with this little bit of space on the ball, Henderson was then able to spring the attack with long passes over the top, and at times this was a great way for Liverpool to quickly start some dangerous attacks. Henderson is a player that I've criticised this season for a lack of invention with his passing, but I do think that his passing yesterday was really impressive. Even if they didn't come off, it got Liverpool moving forward. Another player that benefited from Mane's performance was Thiago on the left hand side of the midfield, because once again he was able to get the ball in a bit of space before then looking to glide forward with the ball at his feet. Thiago was brilliant once again, using his technical grace on the ball to carry the play forward for Liverpool and into the final third of the pitch, and it created an effective way for Liverpool to get the ball to the final third. As I keep saying, Thiago was absolutely brilliant, and I can't express enough how much he affects this Liverpool team. He takes the technical ability in the team to a completely different level. Thiago's ability to progress the ball was ultimately crucial for Liverpool, because it allowed them to get the ball out wide to Luis Diaz as quickly as possible, from where he was then able to drive at the Chelsea defence. This was another really fascinating battle in the game, and again it was quite clear from early on in the match that this was going to be the pattern, with Diaz immediately looking to drive at Chalobah to really get him on the back foot. Yet again, you have to give so much credit to the recruitment department at Liverpool, because they have found themselves an absolute gem because he is such an entertaining player to watch when he gets the ball. Despite his brilliant dribbling ability, there were times when Diaz struggled to beat his man out wide, but fortunately for him, in these situations he had support from Robertson, who looked to make these overlapping runs down the left. Unsurprisingly, Robertson put in yet another good performance in a big game with these runs forward into the final third, although to be honest, his actual delivery in the centre wasn't really of the level that was needed. Thinking about it more, it was actually an odd performance from Robertson. He was often caught out of position defensively, whilst on the ball he offered a lot of threat, but without the final ball that we expect from him. Arguably the same could be said over on the other side of the pitch. Alexander-Arnold put on yet another incredible display of passing, but as for Salah, he never looked like getting into the game and was then forced off through injury. While Salah was on the pitch, he done what we would expect. He received the pass into feet out wide before then driving much more central, but once in these narrow positions, he just didn't really seem to offer anything. Regardless, he is absolutely crucial to this Liverpool team, so again there will be a lot of fears over his injuries, and these problems really couldn't have come at a much worse time at such an important stage of the season. Fortunately, Liverpool now have something that they never really had in the past, and that is quality in depth, with Klopp able to turn to the likes of Jota and Firmino from the bench when Liverpool needed something different. Overall, Klopp will be absolutely over the moon. He hasn't really paid too much attention to the FA Cup in the past, but this year he has really given it a go, and ultimately he has been rewarded with a well-deserved trophy. In terms of the actual match itself, it was sort of a mystery that the game ended goalless even after 120 minutes of action. I say this because I thought that both teams had some really good opportunities, and on another day this could have easily finished with both sides grabbing 1 or 2 goals, but it was just one of those days. As a result, the game of course went to penalties, the dream and nightmare of pretty much every football fan in the world, and as we all know, Liverpool were the ones that came out on top to secure another big trophy for Klopp. The question now is how many more will they be able to win this season? Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.